Say hi. Hi guys. Can you say hi? Hey guys. I know we haven't done a video for a very long time. I think the last video we did was, the last video that I did was in April, which is when I announced our pregnancy. I don't think I did a gender reveal on here at all. We had a girl. Maverick turned a year in August. I know I haven't kept up with any of his updates, which I'm kind of sad about, but we just haven't had time to do that, and I haven't made time to do that really. So I'm hoping to at least do a few updates with our baby girl in the next few months. I just like looking back at the videos and being able to see how little Maverick really was. I just kind of forget. I like just looking at the milestones that he hit, and when he hit them, it's nice to be able to compare with the new baby. So we ended up having a girl on December 8th. We named her Nixon Joelle. On December 7th, I had my weekly routine OB visit. I woke up with contractions that day, and they were just a little bit more intense Braxton Hicks contractions. They weren't super painful, but they were just a little bit more intense than what I was used to. So when I went into my doctor's office that morning, I was hoping that he would tell me that I was dilated more than what I had been the week before. The week before, I was dilated to a 2, and he said the baby was still kind of high, but she was head down. So when I went in to my doctor's visit that day, he checked me, and I was at a 2.5, and I wasn't super impressed with that. Up till that point, up until that point, I had been like super laid back, and I was thinking whenever she comes, she comes. I wasn't super anxious to have her. I mean, we were excited, but I know that babies come when they want to come, so I wasn't going to get myself all excited for it to be coming anytime soon, because I was only 39 weeks and 2 days at that point. So, but at that day when he told me I was only 2.5 centimeters, I was a little upset. I was pretty upset, just because the contractions made me think that I was going to be having her soon. So that day I went home and I hung out with Maverick, and we just played in his room a lot of the day. We took a little nap. I took a 40-minute nap, but at that point in the pregnancy, I just wasn't super comfortable. Well, I was comfortable, but I just I couldn't sleep. I just kept thinking of all the things I wanted to get done, all the nesting things, and so I didn't sleep very long. And as the day went on, my contractions got stronger. That night they were pretty strong, and I was pretty sure that I was in labor. I contacted my doctor at 10 o'clock or 10:30 and asked him if he wanted us to come into the hospital to get checked, just because I had tested positive for Strep B, so we needed to make sure I was getting antibiotics when I was actually in labor, and I needed to have those 4 hours before 4 hours before I had her. So he told me to come in and we'll get checked and just go from there. So we headed home to get our bags. We dropped Maverick off at home, and my mom ended up coming over to watch him here. So that was nice because he didn't have to have his routine messed up at all. We drove to the hospital, and when we got to the hospital, I realized I didn't have my wallet, and so we ended up driving back home to find that. And I ended up not even needing the wallet the whole time. I thought that they'd maybe need my ID and my insurance card, but they didn't. They never asked for it, I guess because I've already was registered at the hospital. I don't know. But so we ended up having to go through the emergency room because the hours of like the front part of the hospital are only till 9. So we ended up going through the emergency room, and they wheeled us up to labor and delivery, which was a lot easier than when we went in for Maverick because we could not figure out how to get to the labor and delivery floor because only certain elevators will bring you to that floor. So it was super easy to go through the emergency room because they just wheeled us right up to labor and delivery with no problems at all. When I got there, they checked me, and I was at a 2.5 still. And at that point, I was feeling pretty defeated. Where's your Batman? Here. At that point, I was feeling pretty defeated. My doctor was at the hospital, so he came in and gave us a couple options. One of them being Pitocin and drugs to get the labor going. Another being walking the halls of the hospital for 2 hours or so to see if we could get things going naturally. So since I wanted a natural labor, in a natural birth, I decided to walk the halls for 2 hours. So around 12 o'clock, Jake and I walked the halls till about 2. And as we walked, my contractions got really strong and more painful. And so I was very hopeful that I was dilating more. So when we got back to the room around 2 or 2:30, what's the matter? My doctor came in and he actually checked me that time, and I was dilated to a 4, so that was good. And they decided to admit us. They got an IV started, but they actually didn't give me the antibiotics starting until like 3. And the nurse could not get the IV started in my arm. The nurse that I had, she tried getting it in the one arm, my right arm, and she told me that she couldn't get the needle through my skin, which was really weird. And when she did get it through my skin, I don't know if she poked my bone or what she poked, but it hurt really bad. She ended up getting another nurse, and the other nurse finally got it started in my left arm. And so at that point, I just laid in bed most of the time. I was so tired because I hadn't slept, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning. And so I asked for a big ball, like a peanut ball, to sit on, and they brought me one, but it was so big, I don't even know if I would have been able to reach the floor. My feet probably would have just been dangling over the sides because it was giant. And so they were talking about maybe getting the bath started for me, to just labor in there for a little bit, but at that point my water broke, and so I just stayed in bed the rest of the time. With Maverick, I wanted to be out of bed, walking around, but with this one, I didn't have any energy, didn't feel like to do that. So I laid in bed, and the contractions kept coming. Jake took a little bit of a nap, but not too much. Be careful. And around, let's see, what time was it? I had some popsicles. I was so sad because I begged for a popsicle. They said they would get me one, and then on the floor, I guess they didn't have any of them, so they had to call Peds. And they brought me one. Well, they brought me a pack of 2. I ate 1 and a half. I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, they had thrown the other half of my popsicle away. I was really sad about that because that was all I was allowed to eat. So around 5, though, I felt like I needed to push. And my doctor came running down the hall. He ended up delivering Nixon at 5:03. So I didn't have to push very long. I don't know exactly when I started pushing, but I didn't have to push very long. With Maverick, I pushed for so long, and that labor was really hard. With Nixon, I didn't have to have any drugs, so it was a lot easier than with Maverick. Nixon's cord was wrapped around her neck, and so my doctor had to cut that before she was all the way out. Once she was out, she was on my stomach. They had to put her on my stomach or chest. And Maverick, no. And they put her on my chest, but they took her right away because she was really blue and she wasn't crying. And I don't remember that a ton because I was kind of out of it. I think it's just how my body deals with the pain. But I do remember them saying call NICU, and they had her over at the warmer, but they ended up getting her to cry and getting her good enough to be able to come back and lay on my chest. So she ended up not having to go to NICU, which was really, really good, because we did not expect that at all. So at that point, I'm trying to think even what happened. They got me cleaned up, and we hung out in our room for 2 hours or so, and then they brought us to the mother-baby floor, and then we started getting visitors around maybe 10 o'clock. Maverick was the first visitor, and he was not sure about me being in this weird bed in a weird room. I think that's what it was, but he didn't want to come see me, and that made me kind of sad. But he didn't want to come see me. He wasn't too interested in the baby. But he came back later that day, and then he had warmed up to the whole thing, and he actually held Nixon, and he seems to like her a lot. We had other visitors, just some family and some friends, and because I didn't get the full dose of antibiotics, I had to stay for 2 full days. So we stayed Friday, well, we stayed the rest of Thursday, we stayed the rest of Friday, and then Saturday morning they got us out of the hospital, which was really nice to finally go home. And a snowstorm was coming, so we got out of the hospital before that. Let's see, since then, so Nixon weighed 7'13" when she was born. Maverick was 7'11" when he was born. So she was a little bit bigger. She was 20.5 inches long. And she was born at 5'03". I think I told you that. And let's see. So when she went home, I think she weighed like 7'4". By the time we went back to the doctor that Tuesday, she weighed, what did she weigh? 7, I don't know what she weighed. 10 days later though, 10 days after her birth, she was back past her birth weight, and she weighed 8'7". So we were very happy with that because I had some issues feeding Maverick, or I had some issues with breastfeeding Maverick. But she has been she's done really well with it so far. So I'm hoping that continues. So she's back to her birth weight. She's sleeping pretty well. She actually, the first week we were home, I was waking her up to eat because I just wasn't sure how much she was gaining. And I just wanted to make sure she was gaining enough. So I would wake her up in the middle of the night to feed her. But now she's started to wake up once or twice a night. And she wakes up, and the first time I feed her and she goes back to sleep. But then around 4 or 5, she wakes up again and wants to be up for an hour. Just up and down. I mean, I put her back down. She acts like she's sleeping for 5 minutes. I lay back down, and then she's up. So for an hour we do that, and then she goes back to sleep usually. Maverick's done really well. He hasn't acted jealous really. Maybe the first week he was a little bit jealous, but he loves giving her kisses, which pretty much are headbutts right now. But he loves giving her kisses, and he gives her toys, and yeah, he's been a really good big brother. I think that's about all I can think of updating you on right now. I can show you Nixon. Yeah, I'll show you. Sit up. Your belly's out. I'll show you Nixon, and then here's Nixon. She's sleeping. So there she is. I'm hoping to do more updates with her like I did with Maverick initially. And I will hopefully update. She'll be a month next week, so we will maybe do a 1 month update for her then. I will talk to you later. Bye.